This episode of the Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy is your daily fantasy platform for player props. Now, Thrive Fantasy is offering our listeners an instant match on their first deposit of at least $20. Use promo code DTSN when signing up today. Start picking your props, racking up points, and winning cash prizes.
Aaron Donald creates the fumble. Goff goes crashing into the end zone.
It is intercepted by Jalen Ramsey.
Robert Wood, touchdown, LA!
Picked off by John Johnson.
Caught, touchdown, Tyler Higbee. It's Michael Brockers who gets there. A'Shawn Robinson. Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air.
Taylor Rapp, who had one taken away, will take this into the end zone.
Henderson with a good run and a first down, still on his feet. Safety in the arms of Leonard Floyd. Up top, touchdown, Van Jefferson. Terrell Lewis.
Everett in stride. Wow!
Hit behind the line. Terrell Burgess, 26.
Gets Bryson Hopkins at the goal line and in for his second touchdown.
But Malcolm Brown into the end zone.
Abu Khan with the strip sack.
Picked off by Troy Hill.
Akers with a stiff arm. Akers into the end zone. Cam Akers.
LA will play for the Lombardi.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Downtown Rams podcast. I'm your host, Jake Ellenbogen. Joining me, as always, is Alexis Kraft, and we have a very special guest. He's formerly up from the Locked On Rams podcast. Alexis and I were on his show many times, so we figured we'd finally bring him on. Brad Motter, a.k.a. Bear. How's it going, Brad? Thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, man, I'm stoked to be here. I didn't know I had to, quit the Locked On Rams gig to make an appearance. But if that's what it takes, dang it, I will do it. And I made my appearance. I'm excited to be here. You know I love talking Rams football and always listening to you guys now as part of my daily drive as I go back and forth catching up on all the Rams podcasts. You guys are doing a heck of a job, and I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited to talk about this upcoming matchup.
Yeah, us too. And thank you so much. And yeah, we have so many good memories of going on your show with you, as you and I kind of were talking about before the podcast. Definitely always a good time. And just getting into this game, I'm going to start this off kind of reading the injury report and what's to be expected from both teams going into this Giants versus Rams matchup. So the big news for the Rams is that the Rams have designated outside linebacker Terrell Lewis to return from non-football injury. He will not be able to go this week, but either next week or the week after, he will be fully activated onto that Rams roster. So that is definitely something to be excited about and to look out for. The worst news for the Rams injury report is that running back Cam Akers is not expected to play this week. He did not practice. So Akers fans going to have to wait a little bit longer to see him back in action. As far as the rest of the guys who didn't practice for the Rams, we have wide receiver Josh Reynolds, who is out with an illness, offensive tackle Andrew Whitworth, but he was only out for a rest day, and then defensive lineman Sebastian Joseph Day, who has an ankle injury. And then we had our safety Jordan Fuller had limited participation, and he's struggling with that shoulder injury. Now for the New York Giants. As far as who did not practice, safety Jabril Peppers, who's a big playmaker for them on defense, was on the did not practice list. And then they had defensive backs Adrian Colbert and Julian Love out, or they were at limited participation. So yeah, that's the injury report as I stumbled through all of that. So definitely some guys to look out for. But the good news is it doesn't seem like, for the Rams at least, there's any major guys other than, perhaps Cam Akers who are not going to be playing in the game on Sunday.
Yeah, and it looks like Jordan Fuller is going to be a go, so that's definitely good to have. I think really Jordan Rodriguez, friend of the show, she already really came out and said that you can really only expect Cam Akers to be out. Of course, Terrell Lewis will be out, but he's not on the roster yet. He doesn't count against the roster. The Rams have 21 days to fully activate him after designating him to return. But moving on. Oh,
real
sorry,
quick,
Barry, you had something?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for Cam Akers getting back. I think I'd rather get him healthy, especially the way that Henderson's playing, and we'll go into it later in this podcast. But in a weird way, it's not concerning to me. I know there's maybe some fantasy people out there. They're like, I need Cam to get back in there. But I actually like this conservative approach. I mean, these ribs, it sounds painful. I'd rather have them just sit this week. It's no offense. It's the Giants. I think we can do plenty of work with the two guys that we have there. So in a weird way, I also have Henderson on my fantasy team. So maybe that's a little internal talking, but I'm actually pretty excited to see Henderson get, a good amount of love in this upcoming game and let Cam Akers get healthy.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. Obviously we talked a lot about him on your show. Just saying, I think on your show, I compared him and Akers and Henderson to Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams. So I think they're both going to be the future of this backfield, but I think people were way too quick to kind of push Henderson off a cliff once they saw, the higher draft pick come up. But, kind of moving on here, thoughts on both teams entering week 4 and where they might end up at the end of the year. The Giants are 1 game out of first place in their division, as crazy as that sounds. And the Rams, albeit, the Seattle Seahawks look really good, the Rams are, a bad call away from potentially being 3-0. So, we'll start with you, Brad. What are your thoughts on these two teams as they converge in week 4 and beyond?
I mean, as we're talking here, I'm watching an 0-3 Jets team versus an 0-3 Broncos team, and I could throw in the Giants into this game, and I wouldn't tell any difference, right? I mean, this is the way I look at them. They're in the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the NFL right now, and it really sucks. I mean, looking at their offensive line is a mess, and we can relate to that, especially last year as we saw our struggles at the offensive line. They lose Saquon Barkley, who is really their only offense. Now it's down to Daniel Jones to do it all. And we'll get into that a little bit later, how he is doing it all. But I'm just, at this point, the Giants they're a mess. And the Rams, were coming off that game that was extremely close, but gave us some really encouragement as far as the way that they fought through. And I think the Rams are one of these teams that's going to compete for the NFC West Championship. I think we all kind of have that vision and where this team is. That I've heard many people kind of say that the 2-1 Rams of this year are better than the 3-0 Rams that were last year. So I think it's like two sides of a coin here. The Rams, who are really good and have some momentum even coming off of a loss, which is usually kind of a random thing to think of. And then the Giants, who just got whooped up on by the Niners, who I really didn't think were as great coming into the season as many people did. They still have a pretty good defense, obviously. But if you look at who they're missing, I mean, it is a long list. You can't even get it into a Twitter tweet because it's not enough characters to say who's all injured. And they just got whooped up on by them. So two different stories, couldn't be more different coming in this game. But I think the Rams are in a really good position with their schedule coming up to lock up some more wins before we get into that brutal stretch of, hitting up a bunch of NFC West teams and then throwing in, those undefeated Bears out there down the road and a few other tough games on the schedule in the second half. So these are games that you got to go in. You have to win because it tells you a lot about your team. Like if you're good, you need to smash these really bad teams. And I think the Giants are one of those really bad teams.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Giants it's just not their season. I mean, I was kind of high on the Giants going into this season. I thought that they had a lot of talent on their roster, but they have had a lot of injuries and they haven't been playing as well as I expected them to play. And I think maybe other people expected them to play. But yeah, the injuries, especially losing Saquon Barkley, who is their superstar. I mean, that's just a horrible loss for them. And yeah, like you said, the Rams are in an entirely different position. The Rams, even though they had kind of that really upsetting loss last week, they have been playing really well all season. And I think they're going to continue to do so going against the Giants. I think lucky for us, I don't expect the Giants to come out and put up much of a fight. But anything can happen. So I'd love to see the Rams use this game to kind of correct the small mistakes that they made against the Bills. Obviously you should never go into any football game completely thinking that you're going to win, because that's usually when bad things happen. But I'm pretty confident about the Rams going into this game. I think the Giants, unfortunately, are just on the decline. I don't see it going very well for them, especially with the way that the Rams offense has been playing.
Yeah, guys, I have to agree with you. I think Alexis, you kind of nail it. I think the Giants do have, somewhat of a talented roster. But the injury to Saquon Barkley just took the wind out of their sails.
Yeah.
But furthermore, I mean, just look at this offensive line. They have not been able to protect Daniel Jones for one, and for two, what is it? Running backs are running. They've carried the ball over 70 times and are running for what 40 something yards. I mean, Henderson had more yards on his 40 plus yard run against the Eagles than the Giants have all year. So it kind of goes to show you kind of the predicament they're in. Daniel Jones is the leading rusher. That is not a good sign. And then, you look at the defense and it's like, I said it earlier on another show, Alexis, this defense has guys like, Blake Martinez and Julian Love and Logan Ryan and James Bradbury that are playing really well, in my opinion, plus Dalvin Tomlinson, Dexter Lawrence, and Leonard Williams up front. But, the problem with this defense is that they're on the field all game because the offense is anemic. So, it's tough. I mean, I do think that, looking towards the end of the year, maybe the Giants could get this cleaned up a little bit. Right now they're starting Cameron Fleming at right tackle. I'm hoping, as a fan of Matt Parrott, that he gets the opportunity as a 3rd round pick to take over for him. Hoping to see maybe Shane Lemieux, who they drafted in the 5th round, to get an opportunity, in that offensive line. They spent a high pick on Will Hernandez. They spent a really high pick on Andrew Thomas in this draft. So I think Andrew Thomas over time is going to get better. I think the Giants will get better, but, they're still in the bottom of the barrel. Like, Brad said, this team has a long way to go, and signing Devontae Freeman did not move the needle at all. So with the Rams, I look at them coming into week 4 and, I just see a team that is one of the top 5 best teams in football. Every team seems to have issues except for the Kansas City Chiefs. Their defense is better than advertised. And, I don't think anybody can stop their offense right now. So, I think the Rams are right up there with the Packers, the Chiefs, the Seahawks, the Titans. I mean, they're right up there. I think that this is going to be a fairly easy game for the Rams to win. But it also could be a huge opportunity for the Rams if they go up big enough early on. You would have an opportunity to maybe get John Wolford involved, see what you have in him in live game reps. Xavier Jones, you might see maybe Tristan Jackson and Simba Webster get an opportunity. That's the good thing about these types of games is when they come around. Obviously, they're not going to come around for the Giants this year, but when they come around for a team when you're like top 5 in the league. You can really make something happen out of it, and you can see what you have in those guys. And, I think that definitely benefits everyone, but, kind of towards the end of the year, though, I expect this team to be competing for a Super Bowl. I think they're the best team in the NFC West, and I think they're probably the best team in the NFC, except for, maybe the Packers, who still, I think that they have a question mark on the defense. I think this is a really good football team, and the Giants couldn't be playing them at a worse time. But moving on to our roundtable section here, all 3 of us will get in our answers kind of similar to that. Starting off with the offense, who do you guys think is going to have a better game, Jared Goff or Daniel Jones? Brad, we'll start with you.
I mean, Nick Mullins threw for 340 yards last week, and I think Jared Goff is a little bit better than Nick Mullins. And no slight to Nick Mullins, because I got to give him credit. He came in 2 years ago and really kind of solidified himself as a backup in this league. So he's no, rookie as getting some action in there, but Nick Mullins, 340 yards or whatever it was. I mean, I'm highly expecting Jared Goff to go over 300. I've been doing a lot of prop bets lately, and I will be taking Jared Goff over 300. And probably if the odds are encouraging me to go to 320, I might take that too. The only thing that would scare me is Darrell Henderson going off on the ground, but I'm hoping that they continue to do what they did a little bit last week and kind of dump it off to him. But Jared Goff is going to win this matchup. And if you guys play fantasy, you know that sometimes when you look at a preview of a matchup, you see a check mark on the side that is the advantage. I would put 2 check marks next to Jared Goff. That's how confident I am that he's going to have a much better game than Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is going up against our secondary that's played well, but I think can play better. Maybe this is the get-right game. I'm expecting to see some turnovers from them. So heavy with Jared Goff on that one.
Yeah, Jared Goff all the way. I mean, I don't think it's going to be close. If you have Jared Goff on your fantasy team, I highly encourage you to start him this week. I think that he's going to play very well from, obviously a gameplay standpoint and a fantasy standpoint. So yeah, I don't foresee any situation where Daniel Jones outplays Jared Goff this week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with you guys as well. It sounds like a dumb question, but we ask this for every preview. We always take the two quarterbacks and, put them up against each other. It's not a knock on Daniel Jones per se, but, nothing is going right for the Giants right now. And I'll be honest with you, I think Jared Goff is one of the hottest quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And furthermore, he hasn't had to do well, I won't even say that. It's not that he hasn't had to do a whole lot. It's that he hasn't been given the opportunity to really do a whole lot. Like when you look at somebody like Matt Ryan, they're constantly down in games. So he's constantly trying to bring them back, and he's done a good job of it. They've just blown leads at the end. But Jared Goff, they've been in command for the most part. Obviously the Bills game was a little different, but they went with a more balanced attack and they didn't, just throw the entire time. So Jared Goff's stats aren't quite where like Josh Allen's stats are, or a Matt Ryan or somebody along those lines. So, I definitely think this could be a game where, he fills the stat sheet. And I'll tell you right now, DFS, fantasy, definitely start him.
Yeah.
Thrive Fantasy, if you haven't given that a shot, shameless plug there. Put in promo code DTSN and you'll get $20 matching your deposit. But Thrive Fantasy, they have prop bets and you pick 10. Jared Goff, if you're not picking the over on whatever the prop bet is,
right.
I don't know what you're doing. So I would definitely go with Jared Goff there. But moving on, how much are we going to see Darrell Henderson, guys? As you all know, I love him. I'm pretty sure we all love him at this point. But you have Malcolm Brown there. How do you guys see this playing out? Brad, we'll start with you.
I mean, I gotta have it as if you're going off of that Thrive Fantasy prop bet talk that you just had. If it's over under 15 carries, I'm taking the over. I think I'd even say if it's over under 18 carries, I'd probably take the over. Given what he did last week, and then coming into this matchup that he has this week, I think you got to live off that hot hand. And Malcolm Brown is great. And don't get me wrong, I think we still need to utilize him a little bit in goal line situations or third down, those type of things, coming in and blocking, or even just keeping that run going. I mean, one thing that McVay did so well in that loss last week was didn't give up on the run. And we've been averaging, I wish I had it in front of us, but I know it's close to almost 30 carries a week these first 3 weeks. So that still lends for a lot of carries for Malcolm Brown. But I got to say the lead back has got to be Henderson. And I'd say it's over 18. I'd probably take that bet too. Feed that hot hand, man. Let's see him hit over 100 again.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that Henderson is going to have the majority of the carries for the Rams this game. I think that's kind of what we saw last game. And it's not really taking anything away from Malcolm Brown, in my opinion. I think they're both great running backs. But I think you have to feed the hot hand. I mean, look at what Henderson did against the Bills every time that he basically carried the ball. And I expect him to play like that against the Giants. So I'd be very surprised if he doesn't lead the Rams in carries. Obviously I think that we will see a lot of him and Brown, especially with Cam Akers being out, but I think that Henderson is going to touch the ball a lot this game.
Yeah, obviously, where I'm going. I'm definitely going to go with Henderson over Brown in this one. And I think, now that Akers isn't going to play, you're looking at least 20 touches for Darrell Henderson. Keep in mind, he was so explosive as just a running back last week, just, running the football. And we know what he can do as a receiver. So, I mean, they have not, fully showed their cards on how they're going to use Henderson. They might just get creative. If this gets, to be like early on, if they're winning by 3 scores, I mean, they're probably just going to try some things and kind of throw some things out there. And I think, Henderson's another guy. If you're into daily fantasy, you're going to want to stack the Rams this week. I have about 4 Rams that I would play. I would definitely play Goff. I'd definitely play Henderson. I'd play I'd say Robert Woods, and then I would go with the defense. But that's what I would say. So yeah, I'm definitely going to say like Henderson goes over 20 touches. Maybe Brown gets about 9 to 12, but it's nothing against Malcolm Brown. It's just when you have a guy in the open field, either Brown or Henderson, who's housing that, or who's most likely going to house that, that run. It's going to be Henderson. He's more explosive. So, it's just you're taking carries away from a guy that has, the potential to just do more. Now, the thing about Malcolm Brown, like you brought up, is he can block, and he was huge on that touchdown throw that Goff had, one of them, where he came in additional protection on third down and really stifled the blitz of Tremaine Edmonds in the Bills game. So, they need him. It's not that he's going away. But yeah, definitely Henderson. Moving on, who's going to run the football for the Giants this week? Because you look at the roster, and I mean, Dion Lewis, I'm actually a pretty big fan of Dion Lewis. I think he's the best back there. Wayne Gallman, who's, from 2017 draft out of Clemson, they probably expected more out of him. He's kind of fallen out of favor. And then they signed Devontae Freeman, who Aaron Donald's picked up by the throat before. But I mean, I'd make the argument the best running back that they have is probably on their practice squad right now, and Alfred Morris, who's given the Rams fits before. Wonder if they activate him. But who do you think, Brad, is going to end up running the football the most this week for the Giants?
Well, you said it earlier. I think it's going to be Daniel Jones, to be honest. I don't even think it's going to be a running back. I mean, he leads the team in rushing with 92 yards, which is kind of an embarrassing stat for them. But yeah, I just don't see, I see him running for his life a little bit. So there's going to be some times where he gets out of the pocket and gets out of contain. And he seems to not trust his offensive line, and you can tell that he's leaving early sometimes. So I honestly, if you're looking at rushing yards or rushing attempts, I wouldn't be surprised if it's him, but I think my second pick would have to be Freeman. They only gave him the rock 5 times last game. It was his first game. He actually got activated really quick in this new era of, the COVID testing and having that waiting period. So wondering if in this second game, they're going to kind of feed him a little bit more. But again, as I told my cousin, and we were talking about, I mentioned fantasy a bunch of times, but I was talking about like, maybe that's an interesting play down the line. And he said, dude, Devontae Freeman's just going to get hurt in the first, 5 games and he's gone, and they're going to have to figure out who's next. But I would go Daniel Jones, and then probably Devontae Freeman a close second.
Yeah, I actually think that Wayne Gallman is probably going to lead the Giants in carries this game. I actually really like Gallman. I've always liked his game. I've always thought that, he was a much better running back than people give him credit for. And I think in the past, when Barkley has not been available, Gallman's always really stepped up. But I also think that Devontae Freeman's actually going to get quite a few touches. I think they brought him in for that reason. But I would say Gallman's probably going to lead the team in rushing, but I think that Brad might be right. It very well could be Daniel Jones. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's an actual thing come this game.
Yeah. It probably will. He'll probably lead the team in rushing, which that means you'd be getting a good, run defend game out of the Rams. But then again, that's kind of going to be overinflated because, I think the Giants are going to be throwing so much. Yeah, I mean, I think Dion Lewis will get the bulk of the carries. I think they trust him the most. So we have like 3 different guys that we selected. But, I think Freeman has issues with his vision. So I don't see him being much of an impact. I think Gallman, like Alexis brought up, Gallman's had success, when Saquon couldn't go last year. So I think he had like a 100-yard game with 2 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. So, I think that they have guys there, but I don't see anybody. I mean, the Rams have not allowed a 100-yard rusher this year. Not Elliott, not Miles Sanders, not Motor Singletary. Like, they have not allowed one 100-yard rusher. I do not expect it to be a Giant. But then again, that's normally how things work out. Moving on, biggest breakout offensive player in this game for the Rams.
Ooh, that's tough because you start talking about the daily fantasy and just stack up your Rams here. I mean, it's hard as much as I think Darrell Henderson's going to get the opportunity to think that he's not going to be that breakout player. Because the other two options for me really would be either Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods. Which one goes off, or is it tight end Tyler Higbee? And that's what makes me feel good about the Rams is we're listing like who's going to go off, and it's so many options, and that's what makes this offense so dangerous. But I think they're just going to continue to ride that hot hand. I'm going to say Darrell Henderson. I don't know if that's taking the easy one, but again, I'm curious to hear your guys' answers because there's a lot to pick from here. But I'll go Darrell Henderson, riding that hot hand, couple screens, and 20 plus carries. I think he's going to rack up total of maybe over 125 total yards.
I'm going to shake it up a little bit. I actually think that Van Jefferson is going to have a breakout game this week.
Nice.
I think that we've seen some flashes from him so far this season, but I think that he's going to play really well this game. I think, the Giants are probably most likely going to put all their attention on Kupp and Woods, and I think that that's going to allow for Van Jefferson to get some extra catches and make some big plays. So, but I think that, the good thing about this Rams team is that it can be anybody. Anybody, I think, can go off in this game, and honestly, I won't be surprised if everyone goes off in this game. But I think if I had to kind of make a bold prediction, I'm going to say that Van Jefferson is going to have a really good game.
Yeah, so, I look at this offense and I feel like anybody can go off. It looked like Josh Reynolds had an opportunity last week. It was really weird how they kind of alternated, from 2 straight weeks of preferring Van Jefferson to, week 3 when things got, tough. They went with Josh Reynolds. I think, this is going to be a blowout. So I think the Rams will have an opportunity to really get anyone they want involved. And so I'm going to go with you, Alex. I think Van Jefferson, this is his opportunity to break out. Similar to how you saw, Justin Jefferson over, with the Minnesota Vikings last week, 7 catches, 175 yards. I think he can have a game like that. It's just a matter of when. And I think, in this one, he's going to stay in even if they sit their starters, halfway through the game, no matter what the score is. So I think he'll get an opportunity regardless of, where the Rams are. And I think he's really going to have a big game. I'm probably, I'm expecting over at least 80 yards and, 5 catches and a touchdown. I mean, that'd be pretty big for him. Maybe two touchdowns, but I think he's going to do something this week. I think he's been, he was way too quiet last week, and he was starting to trend up. And, I think this week he'll break out. But Sean McVay has pointed out during the week that this team, this defense has been hard to prepare against. And, when I look at this team, I do see defensive players that are making an impact this year. I mean, James Bradbury, Logan Ryan, Blake Martinez, Julian Love. I mean, obviously what they have up front, like I mentioned earlier, this team has talent. It's not that it completely lacks talent on defense. But are you worried about this Giants defense? And do you believe Sean McVay is, or was that more just coach speak?
I mean, listening to Sean McVay talk over these last 3-4 years or whatever it's been, I think that's coach talk. I think, and I respect it for him, right? He's never going to give up that quote that the media is going to run with. This defense looks easy, going to be like he's not going to do it. And I respect him for it. And the same way I respect him when we lose that game and he says, I'm not going to blame it on the refs. Like, yeah, we don't like the call, but I'm not going to put it on that. No excuses. So he's sticking in his lane, and that's what he says. But I'm sure if we had some Hard Knocks cameras in the background, he'd be talking about how we got to put up X amount of points and kick their butt, and and really put put the gas on it, right? Not let up and really have a big win. So I like that from him, but no one's scared of that defense right now. I mean, we just talked about what Nick Mullins did last week. They're banged up at the cornerback and secondary position. One of their best players in that area is out of the game. So, or potentially, most likely coming up, may play, but again, will be a little injured up. But as I'm talking about Peppers there. So yeah, I'm not too worried. The one thing I do see is actually their pass rush has been a little bit better than expected. So, just kind of another mini challenge for this offensive line to not kind of take take a day off. They've been playing so well. They got to continue that, because that is the one thing that could wreck our offense is a good pass rush. So that's probably the only thing I'm kind of concerned about, is if any, if they throw in some extra blitzes and we have some sort of miscommunication up there, that Jared Goff will be, that we see that revert to last year when he's under pressure and maybe gets a bad throw or the fumble, which he's been taking care of the ball that way. I mean, that was one of my big complaints about Jared Goff, was not so much even the interceptions, but how many times he fumbled the ball. So he's been great at it this year. Let's hope he continues. That's the only thing I'm worried about the Giants is maybe the pressure that they could bring at the quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I am not terribly worried. I mean, about the Giants defense. I think McVay's comments were respectful. But I think I agree with you though, Brad, that my main fear about this Giants defense would just be rushing the quarterback and seeing if our offensive line can hold up, which I think that they can, just based on what we've seen so far this season. But the Giants have a relatively decent defensive line. It wouldn't surprise me if they got a sack or two this game. But I think overall, with the way that our offense is playing, I'm not entirely worried that the defense is going to get to us. But anything can happen. I mean, every defense can have a game where they play out of their mind. There's nothing stopping the Giants from having that kind of game, but I just don't think it's going to happen this week.
Yeah, I'm not worried at all about the Giants, but I wasn't worried at all about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to week 4, and that changed. And it's funny because the reason, I bring that up because I remember last year everyone was like, "Oh, Tampa Bay is going to be really good," and then Tampa Bay fell off a cliff to start, and they lost to the Giants. If you remember, Daniel Jones had 5 total touchdowns against them, and then they took their frustration out on the Rams. But I think the Rams are about to take their frustrations out from the Bills game. I really do. Getting to come back home, it seems like it's been a while since they've been at SoFi, even though it's only week 4. But they're going to be back home. They're going to be in the uniforms with the soul pants, everything going on. I'm not worried about this defense at all. I think this defense is better than given credit for, but I think one thing the Rams do extremely well is they dominate the time of possession, and that's how you get this defense to completely fall apart. They're going to get tired for being on the field the entire game. Their offense is anemic. Nick Gates against Aaron Donald, good luck. I'm not worried at all about their defense, and their offense is probably going to be more dangerous to their defense than the Rams offense is. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. But moving on to the defense, question for you guys. I'm extremely high on a man by the name of Jachai Polite. I've watched Samson Ebukam struggle mightily off the edge. I don't believe he is an NFL starter, and PFF agrees with me. He's rated the last as far as overall points and rating is concerned. He is last in the league at the edge defender position. So I believe that they need an upgrade. Jachai Polite's barely played this year, but when he's come in, he's made, huge, flashes, almost sacked Dak Prescott to start the year, in crunch time. Obviously, he's a former 3rd round pick, and you saw his tape at Florida to know that he has what it takes. Will we see more Jachai Polite in this game?
I mean, I hope so, because you just laid it out there pretty well. And man, as much as I want to get behind Samson Ebukam, I just can't. I think it was Sly at ThinkBlue47 who put it up earlier. I was trying to find it, but I think he said, "Good morning to everyone except for Samson Ebukam and Brian Allen." I think we're 2 that he called out. And I was like, I hate to like this, but I'm going to have to, because I'm kind of over this, the opportunities that he's getting from the edge and not creating any pressure. And Jake, from our conversations back on Locked On Rams, how much I'm excited for Jachai Polite. I really believe that we got a really good steal when we picked him up and we placed him on the practice squad, and he sat through that whole season. And now it's his final time to actually make this roster. And so why bring him on the roster if you're not going to get him into some action? And I feel like I'm a firm believer that that Sean McVay isn't going to give anybody an advantage over somebody. But I'm looking at these stats and I'm looking at the snap count and I'm going, why is he getting all that opportunity? I can't wait for Lewis to get back. You touched on it earlier in the show about, what's his track to getting back on the field, and hopefully it's sooner than later. But we got to figure out something, because even going back to that Buffalo game, it was like you saw that look in Aaron Donald's eyes. He had like this LeBron James, like, I have to take over because nobody else is going to do it. And there's times where an offense can just go, okay, well, no one else is creating pressure. We'll just put 3 guys over here. We'll put the tight end, or, he's not going to always be able to do it. So we need some help. I would love to see more Ja'Kai Polite. I'd love to see more Morgan Fox. I know not so much from the outside or wherever you want to put him, but he's been producing on the limited reps. So just get the guys in that are doing it. More Obo, more of these. Just start mixing up a little bit more. Less Ibukum, I think, is really where we're both at. But yes, hopefully we get some more production there. Again, we talked about a get-right game for the Rams in multiple levels. Hopefully it's a get-right game, a little confidence booster for those pass rushers, because it's been, right around that poor level, I think we'd mark it.
Yeah, do I want to see more Ja'Kai Polite? Yes. Do I think we will, at least this game? No. I think for whatever reason, the Rams are really high on Samson Ebukam. I am more than welcome to be proven wrong. I'd love for the Rams to play him less in this upcoming game, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think for whatever reason, they're sticking with him. He's the guy for now. I don't understand it, but I would love to see more Ja'Kai Polite. I think there's obviously a reason that the Rams brought him in and have kept him on the team. So who knows? Maybe, he'll get a snap or two and maybe he'll play well and earn more playing time. We'll see. I don't really see this being a game that they play him a lot unless we get a really, really massive lead, which we might. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see him. I'm not super optimistic about it.
I can understand that. This team has made you, me, and Brad all want to pull our collective hair out. Just looking, right now, what the Jets are playing right now, and John Franklin Myers is rated 6th in the league at interior defensive line, according to PFF. So, yeah, that's hard pill to swallow. But the Rams haven't always made the right choice. For every Jordan Fuller, for every every one of those types of decisions that they've made, a Darius Williams, a Troy Hill, they followed it up with the Samson Ebukam type of decision. And look, Samson Ebukam is in his contract year. He's probably not coming back, or he is on an extremely cheap deal. And here's the thing is that, I think, Alexis, I want to agree with you, because that's just kind of how the Rams have operated. Like they don't really make decisions like that, except I'm really inclined, and maybe it's just my homerism to Ja'Kai Polite, I'm really inclined to believe that this team, had they won against the Bills, may not have put that much of an emphasis on, switching it up. But I think after you lose a game, you have an argument. You now have, a reasoning to go back and be like, all right, I watched the film. Where was 50? What is he doing? Ooh, that was really bad. That's not setting an edge. I watched that game, and then I watched the All 22, and he's, and the thing that sucks is I like the guy. I think he's a good dude. I really do. This is not a business about good people. Alexis and I have interviewed so many good people that, haven't had an opportunity. This guy's had an opportunity, and he has not made the most of it. And, I'm just going to tell it like it is. He struggles to set the edge. He basically has no pass rush plan. He gets stymied at the point of attack. Ja'Kai Polite in limited opportunities. He comes in, he gets pressure. I think they might actually, I'm not saying they'll start with him, but I don't be surprised if they use him a lot more in this game, because I think you learn a lot more in your losses than you do in your wins. And I think you're a lot more, able to make that choice to bench a player or to start a player, after a loss than you are a win. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Ebukam, starts to really lose his snaps. I don't see him getting any better. This stuff can't be corrected. He is not, he's just not playing up to par. And really, he's never been a true starter. He's, subbed in and out, wasn't getting the opportunities when Clay Matthews was there. And now he's the starter. And I mean, he's only the starter until Terrell Lewis comes back. But, even so, I mean, I know they like his speed, but, what good is speed if you can't set the edge, if you're getting juked out of your shoes by, Devin Singletary? I mean, that game was bad. And I think really the reason I think he's going to get benched ultimately is, the first two games were not good, but the Bills game was just, his play fell off a cliff. So it was already really bad, but then it got like horrible. Like, I mean, arguably the worst starting, edge defender in the league. So yeah, I could definitely see more Polite. I could see, Okoronkwo. I could see Natrez Patrick, who they took off the practice squad last week. They'll probably activate him again. So that's how I see that. But, we'll see. Obviously, this could be a huge, margin, and then you'll have an opportunity to let those guys just pin their ears back and rush the passer, get some reps. So that'll probably be good. But moving on, key matchups. There's a lot of them in this game. But Brad, what are ones that really stand out to you?
I mean, for the Giants, I think, it definitely is there. Even though we just came off of talking about the lack of pass rush, but it only takes one man. I think it's their offensive line versus Aaron Donald is definitely got to be a matchup to watch, just because of, he's started off pretty hot so far this season, and they don't have a lot of good talent up there. And then I think the second matchup, I'll stay on the defense side of the ball. It's our cornerbacks versus Daniel Jones' decision-making. Like, is he going to get to a point where he's desperate to make a play because everyone's injured and they don't have anyone to really go to? So he feels like he's got to make this play. And if you watched him so far in his career, he feels like he's always kind of had that gunslinger mentality. I can do it on my own. I'm going to force it. I trust my arm type of throw. So I think that's another one to watch. And then probably the last one, I'll stick it on that, the same one as my first one, but on the Rams side is Rams offensive line versus their defensive front. Because I think that's really, as I said earlier, the only thing that could slow down this Rams team in this matchup is their defensive line and what they can do as far as pressuring the quarterback. So you may have asked for one, but I gave you three, and that's what I'm thinking as far as key matchups for the Rams and the position groups.
I think that the key matchup here is Aaron Donald against any one of the Giants' offensive linemen. I think that he has been playing really well this year. I know that maybe the first two games he was a little more quiet than Rams fans expected. But let's be honest, Aaron Donald is double teamed on every single play, every single snap. And I think he does relatively well. I think last week against the Bills was just a preview of what he can do. And I think that he's going to go against a worse offensive line going against the Giants. So I think that the key really, for the Giants is just Aaron Donald. But I think that the spotlight's going to be on him. I think that that's going to be a thing this game. I think trying to contain him is going to be a problem.
Yeah, I don't really like I really don't like Nick Gates' chances against Aaron Donald. I'm just going to say that. Not at all. But at the same time, it's interesting because, my friend Michael brought up the other day, we were talking about Aaron Donald, and, he pointed out that, Aaron Donald seems to turn it on, in games where they need Aaron Donald. But in those games where you're expecting Aaron Donald to absolutely eviscerate like a Nick Gates or, a Herbig, with the Eagles, those are the games he doesn't blow up in. So, that is really kind of the interesting thing. And I have noticed that, like Nate Herbig, you were expecting we had Ben Solak on and he's like, do you guys know who Nate Herbig is? Because I cover the team and I don't even know who he is. So I didn't see Aaron Donald take over that matchup. And I don't know if he'll take over this one, but I mean, if he has, any sort of semblance as he did in week 3, he's going to absolutely maul this offensive line. And I think Zeitler and Hernandez are talented. And I don't think Nick Gates is terrible, but I don't know if starting Nick Gates at center versus Aaron Donald is a good idea. Then again, that's probably all they have. So, the key matchups that I'm looking for, though, who is going to cover Tyler Higbee? I think it's really interesting when you look at the Rams wide receivers. They create a mismatch in a sense of them existing where it's like you can't even put a corner on Higbee. Keep in mind, the Eagles, you can do that. The Rams were able to put Ramsey when they wanted to on Ertz because, the Eagles had one guy today at practice that was healthy playing wide receiver. So, I mean, that just kind of tells you everything you need to know. But, when you're going up against a team like the Rams, you don't have that luxury. You can't just put your lockdown corner on, their big time tight end. And that's the thing is like, I'm sure they want to do that, but they know they can't because you have to account for Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and Van Jefferson and Josh Reynolds. So when you have Bradbury playing the way he's playing, I can't imagine who they're going to put. I mean, they're either going to put him on Woods or Kupp, but and then Logan Ryan on the other. But I just, that's going to be tough. They've been playing Isaac Yiadom, who they got from Boston College, who they got from Denver. They've been playing him quite a bit. He played 59 snaps last week. So, they definitely really like him. And I think he's going to be on the Van Jefferson or Josh Reynolds combination. But as far as tight end, Higbee's got a legit matchup though, against Julian Love. So, I think that could be really interesting here. If Love is not up for the challenge, and keep in mind, Higbee's 6'5", 6'6", 250, 260. So, I mean, he's big. If Love is not up for that challenge, it could be a rough day for him.
That's a good one. I like that one. That's a good call out. Cause you're right. The other weapons they have create so much mismatches at that tight end position. And especially when you're not deep in the secondary, like they're not right now, they're in trouble there. So that's a good call.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy on that. I think another matchup to watch out for is how well David Edwards played really well last week. He's in the top 10 right now for PFF, which shocks some people. It doesn't really shock me. I know it doesn't shock Alexis. She had a second round grade on the guy. But David Edwards is going to be going up against in the trenches. I mean, he's going to be going up against somebody like Dexter Lawrence or Dalvin Tomlinson, depending on how they line up. So I mean, that's not a cakewalk, So I definitely think that's going to be a fun matchup to watch. And then of course Darrell Henderson out of the backfield as a pass catcher, going up against either Kyler Fackrell or they would probably have Blake Martinez, who's had a really good year to this point. So, that'll definitely be interesting. But moving on, we're going to move on to, do you guys have any stat predictions? This is going to be our opportunity to, anything you want to throw out there and say, well, I was the one that said this, and then you have audio, to kind of back that up. Anything out there that you want to throw out there?
I got a couple crazy ones. Maybe they're not crazy. I've already kind of said it, so I'll stretch. I said Goff over 300. I'll say Goff over 325. I think Henderson goes over 100 on the ground, and I think for defense, I think we get 3 turnovers. So those would be my 3 bold stat prediction type things. I was thinking about going into the sack realm as we kind of made such high emphasis of getting lack of production, but I don't know if I trust that area yet enough to put a prediction on. That would be one that would be bold enough. So those are mine. I think offensively, it's a big day. I think Henderson over 100. Maybe I'll even stretch to say over 125 all yardage, all purpose. Goff over 325. These numbers are adding up, people. We might be like 500 yards of offense, but that's where I'm sitting. And 3 turnovers, man. That's the one I really care about. Our team has had a couple this season. Maybe that one by John Johnson that we didn't really deserve last week, but we'll take it. But big turnover week. I think Daniel Jones is going to be pressing at times.
My only stat prediction that I really have is I think Van Jefferson's going to get 2 touchdowns this game.
Whoa! Yeah.
I'm just high on Van Jefferson this game, so I'm just going to throw that out there, and that's going to be my prediction. And it will be a game that, honestly shouldn't be that hard to accomplish. But yeah, Van Jefferson, 2 touchdowns.
I like it for the reason that Jake just went in on Tyler Higbee, is that everyone else is getting so much attention, and the likes of Darrell Henderson and all this they got to worry about. The rookie's got a chance to go up against a matchup where he's probably going to be winning that, and Jared Goff can be smart enough to get it. So I like that one a lot too, because for almost the same reason he was talking about Tyler Higbee having a day. Very good. I like it. And that was bold. 2 touchdowns. I like it.
Thank you.
Well, and the thing is, on top of what we're talking about with the Tyler Higbee thing, like, it's not only do they have the matchups, but it's the way Sean McVay draws up these plays where you have these legal picks in the middle of the field that will get these guys even more open. And they do it all the time. They have these converging routes. They basically create this rush hour traffic in the middle of the field. And it's so hard for defenses to process, not even including the fact that there's going to be a wide receiver that goes in motion, in, kind of a jet motion type of thing. And since the Rams use the end around so much to a Robert Woods, to a Cooper Kupp, they've used it to Reynolds, they've used it to Van Jefferson. I mean, because they use that, defenses have to keep them honest. And so when you see that guy go in motion as a linebacker, you're automatically programmed to move in that direction, and it catches you off balance and allows everybody to get open. So just kind of explaining that whole situation, why the Rams are just such a tough offense to game plan against. But as far as stat predictions, Jared Goff's about to throw 6 touchdowns, guys. This is going to happen. He's going to throw 6 touchdowns in this one. His career high, I believe, is 5. He threw against, I want to say the Vikings. I think he did it against the Chiefs as well. He's going to throw for 6 touchdowns in this game. Another prediction I'll have, I'm going to say this right now. Jalen Ramsey will come down with 2 interceptions, because I'll tell you right now, Daniel Jones is unlike most quarterbacks. He doesn't get enough credit. He literally is fearless. He will go right at the number 1 corner and not care. If he wants to get the ball to his main man, he is going to do it. And Darius Slayton has been his guy. He's been his go-to guy. I know everyone talks about Golden Tate because the big name, but Golden Tate is nothing compared to where Darius Slayton is as a receiver right now. So Darius Slayton is probably going to be covered by Jalen Ramsey the majority of the game. They might put him on Evan Ingram, but I'd imagine it's going to be Darius Slayton. And I think, Daniel Jones being fearless, it also doesn't, bode well for him. He's going to get picked off twice by Ramsey in this one. But we'll move on to the final portion of this. Final score predictions, everyone's favorite spot. Brad, what do you think is going to happen?
Man, after hearing your 6 touchdowns, I'm just trying to do math in my head right now, what we could expect for this score to be. But I feel like everyone's predictions kind of helped. I felt like I had bold predictions, and now I don't feel like they're very bold. But all of your predictions help my predictions. So together we'll go win them all. But score, I want to crack the 40s, but I feel like going back to the Lockdown Rams days, every time I got a little over eager, it was like a 12-10 showdown or something. So I'm going to say 38. 38.
There you go with the 38 again.
I know. That's my sweet spot. 38-13. I think they'll get some random touchdown, even though they had 0 red zone attempts last week against the Niners, who again, pretty good defense, but really banged up. So, I'm going to say 38-12. It's going to be just field goals all day for them. They don't get in the end zone. 38-12.
I'm going 28-7 Rams. I know that seems low, but that's just what I've been saying for a long time. So I'm just going to stick with it, but obviously won't be surprised if the Rams put up much more than 28 points. But just for the sake of consistency, I'm saying 28-7 Rams.
Yeah, so you guys already know where I'm going with this. If you have 6 touchdowns from a quarterback, he's going to be in the 40s. So I have the Rams winning 45-10. The Rams have a 52-20 second half point differential. They dominate time of possession, 33 minutes to 26:59. Jared Goff leads the NFL in yards per completion and attempt. He has 96.6 adjusted completion percentage while not under pressure. 449.7 yards per game that Rams offense averages. Aaron Donald leads the league with 20 pressures. The last meeting in 2017, the Rams won 51-17. I was there against the Giants at MetLife, and I think this team is better than that team. The Giants have beaten the Rams up until last year 7 straight times, dating back to 2001. So that's pretty crazy. Also, for you guys that didn't know, the Rams lead the all-time series 27-17. Daniel Jones again leads the Giants in rushing, and Sean McVay is actually trying to become a plus 500 coach against the NFC East for his career. He's actually only 4-4 against the NFC East, and mainly because of the demolishing loss to the Cowboys last year, and of course those losses to the Eagles in the past, and the his first career loss against the then Washington Redskins. So I have 45-10, guys. I think Jared Goff is going to put all the points on the board, and Sam Ficken will start the game off with a field goal. People will be like, "Oh, the Rams only got a field goal," and then the route will be on.
Did I catch a Ficken in there?
Oh, you got me saying Sam Ficken. Oh man,
50-yard bomb
from
Mr. Slowman. Let's see that 50-yard leg that we heard all about during training camp. Let's see it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd like, I don't even, we were talking about Sam Ficken, so that's why I said that.
And we got the Jets are on, and Ficken missed a kick earlier from 40 yards, so I don't know if that's any better. We were talking about that, because who would you rather have at this point, Ficken or Slowman? I think we both have the same feeling when either one kicker walks out kicking for the Rams. So I like it. You kept it to 1. You did the math. You saved yourself there. I wasn't trying to do all that, so I like the prediction.
Yeah, I had to do math for you. I'm always there for you, Brad. So
I appreciate
got
that.
the math done. The Rams win 45-10. So it's a sweep. We got 3 Rams, 0 Giants. It's been fun, Brad. It's been fun, Alexis. It's been fun. Just this podcast is fun. So thanks again, Brad, for coming on. We really appreciate it. If you want to shout anything out, now's the time for you to do it.
I got nothing to shout out these days, man. You can follow me at LA_Ramblin' I'll throw out a random tweet or two and retweet all of the Downtown Rams stuff. And hey, I just appreciate you guys hitting me up and having me on today. We've been talking about this for a while now, and we had many of conversations. And since I've moved on and let Sosa take that on, we haven't had as many. So anytime you want to have a chat, hit me up, man. I'm more than happy. And thank you to everyone that listens to you guys and that has supported me as well along the way. I saw some really fun comments when you tweeted out I'll be on the show today. So to everyone that commented, I appreciate that. I miss talking to you guys, miss talking Rams. So anytime I come on, I'm more than happy to do so.
Yeah, and Boondy is definitely going to be happy because he loves you and he loves us. So
my man down under, yes sir, Aussie.
This is like Christmas for him. But all right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. As always, this is the Downtown Rams podcast. For Jake Ellenbogen, Alexis Kraft, and Brad Motter, we are signing off. Until next time, you guys take care and go Rams.